truck, your second truck career was like a second career. So you had a lot of success there. What makes you want to retire?
I didn't want to retire.
Okay.
I was Angie was working with Dave Moody on Sirius XM, and we bought our place in the mountains, and me and the dogs were headed up to the mountains. And it was a Friday, I guess it was Friday, Thursday or Friday, and they come on the radio and say Dale Jr. has taken himself out of the car because of his concussion. And
2012. All right.
I remember that wreck, and I went, I didn't think he even hit that hard. But if you look at your dad's wreck, it didn't look like he hit that hard either. And I went, what in the hell am I doing? And at that point in time, I'm doing start and park deals. I was making great money at it because I only had to commit suicide for a couple of laps, and then the rest of the weekend I was just messing around. And I called Angie, and I said, I think I'm going to quit. I said, I just heard Dale Jr. took himself out of the car after that. And I think I was a smart ass. After that little bitty wreck he had, and I thought of some of my wrecks, and I went, what am I doing? And we went and saw Charlie Branch, which I don't know if you remember him. He worked on your dad. He's a neurosurgeon up in Winston Baptist. And he took my brain scan, and he goes, this ain't good.
Ooh,
he goes, you need to find an exit strategy. He says, your scan looks like a 9 or 10-year-old child with mental problems. And I went, bull, you're just kidding me. And he said, no, I'm not kidding. He said, you need to think about this. So I decided to quit. And when I called her on the phone, I says, or after your announcement, and I said, and I'd already had that conversation with the doctor, and I said, I think I'm going to quit. She went, okay, cool. I'll see you. I'll be up there about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock because she had to work till 7, and then she'd drive to the mountains that night.
Yeah. You run a...
Wow.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Why? But why that? What Dale Jr. had a...
First of all, I've always liked him. I had a lot of respect for him, especially on the big tracks. And I prided myself because I thought I was good on big tracks, and he was better than me. And I just thought, here's a guy that's got the world by the butt. He don't have to do this. He wants to race as much as anybody I know, but he's smart enough to do what I didn't do. And I would tough it out and get back in that car, not even hardly know where I was at. And I was just running. I drove hurt too long. And he inspired me with what he, And I remember Charlie saying, you want to watch your grandkids grow up and be kind of normal, or you want to walk around like Muhammad Ali was walking around at that time?
Oh, yeah.
All messed up.
Right.
And it just inspired me to call Angie and say, I think I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
Did you know this?
Nope.
Did you ever think to call Dale Jr. and at least have a conversation?
She told me to, but I never did. I didn't want to mess
So
with
your
her.
wife was smart, but you didn't listen to your wife. That we all have those stories. You're not alone in that.
I'm starting to listen a lot more now.
I bet.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. I think, the funny thing, maybe this has been the same for you, is when I stopped driving, I didn't miss it. But then the longer I got away from it, like the further it is in the distance, the more I miss it. And I start to think for a moment every once in a while, probably once a week, that, man, I could go back and do it. I could go back and I could do it. And then I think about my kids.
Yeah.
And I think about, I can't go back and do it. Because if, one more crash or the next crash is one of those bad ones, I got to go through at the least, go through the rehab again to get well, and putting them through that. But and the worst case scenario could be just unimaginable. But
I still do a little vintage racing.
I noticed. So I wanted to ask you about that. You drove your son's got super late models, and I know you raced in that car and had one.
Mm-hmm. The prolates.
Yes. So what makes you decide to drive one of those races?
Well, first of all, he was got a small race team.
Yes.
And they leased the cars out and try to develop drivers. And it started out, Dad, will you test for us? Because they knew I was a good chassis man. So my youngest son, Dustin, was crew chief, and he said, I want Dad in the car, because Jamie would just bark orders, and I would work with Dustin, and we got the cars really good. And we came up with some really cool front-end stuff, and we had the back of the car steering, and every time we'd come up with something, they'd outlaw it. And so we just stayed on top of it, just like the Cup Series or what you guys do right here. If you just sit there, you'll get passed. You got to be aggressive. You got to try to figure out to work within the perimeters of the rules, but you need to be the guy that's making them want to take stuff where you can't do it anymore. Yeah. And so we did that, and our cars were really fast. So I don't know, it was a red eye race or whatever. They said, Dad, why don't you just race the car for us, this race? I'm like, okay. So we win the race. And then the next time, why don't you race the car? We win the race.
Hold up. So you get in the car. You've tested it, drove it, practiced it, so you know what your speed is. That helps you. So if you're a driver, and people listening, if you're a race car driver, even the ones that have had amazing careers, Jimmy Johnson even feels this way. If you get out and you haven't done it for a while, you're apprehensive to drop right back into a race. You want to go practice. You want to go see if you still got the speed, right? See if you can still do it. See if you can still understand the car. So you've done that. You've got this confidence, like, I know I can run the lap time. But you get out there in competition with the other cars and going through the race, managing tires, doing all the fun things that you do inside there. Were you, like, on cloud nine? You had to have been, and to do it and win, right, at your age, to go back and after everything you've been through, all the injuries and the ups and downs, disappointments, highs and lows, to go out there with your son, your own car, and go out there and compete and win, that had to have been a highlight for you personally.
You don't think about it while you're doing it.
Yeah.
But after the fact, when you're 2 glasses of wine in and half the team's at your house, it's 2:00 in the morning, you're partying, you're going, that was so cool.
That might have been the coolest thing we've done.
But one of the things that I helped them with, and I did a lot of testing for them, we had a young kid, and I'm not going to mention his name, good kid, he won 6 races in the car, and his mom, and they had a meeting, they always had a post-race meeting, and she goes, you're charging us too much. You need to give us a better deal because my son's the only reason that your cars are winning. And Jamie came back and told me that, and I said, schedule a test for Monday morning. And so he gets the track, and we take the driver down there, and I said, you put a set of tires on. You guys get your car as good as you can get it. I just want to see how, I'm evaluating this stuff. So they go out there in about an hour and a half, same set of tires. I said, do you mind if I take a couple laps in this car? And he goes, oh, that'd be cool. You want to drive it? Yeah, come on, old man, get in here. So we stretch everything out for my fat ass to get in there. And my first lap on the racetrack, I hadn't driven in a while, was a half a second faster than his best lap. And I came back down pit road, and I pulled the window net down. I said, you know why I don't do this anymore? And he said, no, I have no idea. That was really fast. I said, because I'm not good enough. I said, so go home and tell Mommy you got a little work to do before you get a better deal.
Yeah.
That was one of the coolest things that I'd done in the race car. This kid's winning races and stuff, and I'm like, okay, let an old man show you how you really get it done. An old man that's, by the way, too old to do it anymore.
Yeah. So are you too old to do it anymore? There's people that drive that are your age or older.
No, I'm not. I think, winning the short track nationals was a big deal for me because I was surely the oldest guy in the field, and we had to come from the back a couple times, had no brakes, and we're at Bristol, I got a lot of laps at Bristol, probably didn't hurt me any, but driving a complete different animal. And I think that was cool, but I have a lot of fun doing this vintage racing. The cars drive terrible. They got a ton of horsepower.
What kind of car are you driving?
Like a C2 or C3 Corvette, like the old big block Corvettes, but they got a crap tire on them, and they got 800 horsepower. They got these giant big blocks in them, And it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Al Unser Jr. comes and races with us. I run him down 32 seconds at Road Atlanta last year and won the race. And I was like, that was really cool. It's as exciting as winning some of the other races that we were able to win throughout the career. But doing it at this age, and another old fart is a guy I had to beat, which he's a great guy. I don't know how well you know him.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
He is a good guy. So how often do you race?
Well, since this pandemic, we haven't raced this year. They're just now getting going again. But the guy I was racing for hasn't really got the car together or whatever, and so probably won't race any this year. Hopefully, we'll come back and run 3 or 4 races next year.
Cool.
I want to tell you something real quick, and I because this is definitely something you wouldn't know, and you probably don't even know this. So Angie was on Kelly's podcast early in the Dirty Mo Media days, and that show was called Fast Lane Family. And I remember something stuck with me that Angie told Kelly when they were talking about kind of your life after racing and kind of like this kind of driver identity crisis, maybe is how you'd call it. And it influenced us, what Angie said about you, even when we were trying to navigate kind of like Dale's exit. And this is even kind of before the concussion that really kind of like it expedited the exit for sure. But like we knew that, he probably was going to race several more years. So like very few drivers get to call their shots on how they exit. Very few athletes do, frankly.
I don't think we wanted to do it that way.
Nobody ever does, right?
Right.
And Angie said something on that podcast and it was something like, it's hard not to feel like a bull put out to pasture in retirement. And when we would have conversations internally and, like, hey, this is that always just kind of stuck with me and inspired us as far as like, hey, let's have an identity. Let's strive for an identity, a purpose after racing, because I think there's an identity crisis that most people, you know what, you don't even have to make it an athlete thing. Most people don't end the way they want to. They're replaced by somebody younger. This could be the accountant. This could be anybody, right? And it's like, what am I going to do with my time? What am I going to do with my life? And that was something based off of just those comments in that interview that we wanted to strive to have a purpose and an identity beyond racing. And I think that's advice that anybody needs to basically aspire to as they get up in years. So I can say all that. I wanted you to know it too. Did you feel like a bull put out to pasture?
Absolutely. It's funny, and I've explained it like this. I'm like, you're the quarterback all these years, and now you're the water boy. And it's like, wait a minute, it was way more fun being the quarterback. Yeah. I don't want to be the water boy. Yeah. It's like when I came into Junior Motorsports and they offered me a job. And I went, man, this is great. I'm going to get to race again. And then the guy handed me a broom.
Yeah, well, listen.
Same difference.
Whenever NASCAR lets us go to 7 full-time teams, then you're going to be one of the cars.
Okay, I'll either run Bristol or restrictor plate track or road course.
Wow, you're one of only a few old retired drivers that would get back on a plate track.
Oh, I love plate racing.
All right, if you like that, get on your smartphone, your tablet, Alexa, whatever it is you're using, and go listen to the podcast. The Dale Jr. Download is available for free on all major podcast platforms.